You know, they're selling you all wolf tickets, people. You're eating them right up.
Hey, pussy, are you still there?
I back. Trust me, I back.
But I'm not impressed by your performance.
You'll do nothing. You'll do nothing. Shut your fucking mouth, you'll do nothing. You'll do fucking nothing. Not one of you will do nothing.
I'll tell you what, bro. You know, I was out there, I was fighting all the hitters, bro. You ain't fought no hitters.
Come on, guys. It's normal.
I'm not saying I would fight you. I would kill you.
John, do you think I'm just gonna sit there and let you kill me, John? I mean, really?
No, don't be scared, homie. I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
I'm gonna beat you to the living death. I mean, maybe that's your job, but where I come from, you know, people like that get slapped.
That's fucking illegal.
Nick Diaz, you just shook up the world. How's that feel?
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
Yeah, this is a simulated death match. And you haven't simulated anybody's death yet.
I said it last year. We're not here just to take part. We're here to take over.
What is the game plan going in against him?
The game plan is you go in there, hit him with some good shit, don't get hit, and come home with a pocket full of cash.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Everybody's on steroids. The whole UFC, everybody.
I'm gonna go home tonight. I'm gonna drink a Coors Light. That's a Coors Light because Bud Light won't pay me nothing.
Do you want to be a fighter? That is my question.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up? What is up? MCR family, another daily edition of the show live on YouTube and obviously podcast form, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and that's finally updated. Shout out to me. Only taken about 2 weeks to update the podcast. Man, I'm trash. Shots at me. But anyways, I'm Matt, the Hipster Hunter. Obviously, we're going to be here to discuss the Canelo $365 million 10-fight deal. That is obviously newer news, so to speak, than our show yesterday. Obviously, fights this weekend we're going to discuss, debate, dissect in some way, even though there's really not that many fights to talk about, to be quite honest. Pretty much a light weekend. Obviously, if you have not been on social media and you've been living under a rock all day, you've missed the messiness between Floyd Mayweather, Oscar De La Hoya, and Canelo. Oh, I love the messiness between it all. And also some MMA news, which we're going to get to at the very, very end. Unfortunately, as the show title says, we're supposed to have Regis Prograis live to do an interview here. Cameron was supposed to be on. He was supposed to facilitate it. Cameron's MIA. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Cam. I got to do it. Shots fired. So Regis Prograis will probably not be on the show unless he just will want to call in on his own, which I highly doubt. But however, we're not going to get to him yet because it's, he's just a caller. He is not a host. Shots fired again. But we do have a little bit of reunion. Do I even have the soundbite? I thought I deleted it out of spite. I might have actually deleted it out of spite. That's really funny on my end. But Rob from obviously TBV, Robbie Hearns will be on the show, I think, to talk some shit as well. So that'll be fun. Oh no, here it is. There it is, just for Rob.
And the main thing we cannot forget is I am the.
Rob, whoa, turn down your air horns, Rob. Okay. Rob, just come on, man. What's up? How you doing? The people want to see a reunion. How you doing?
How you doing, man? You good?
I'm good. Turn up your volume a little bit.
Little bit.
Yeah, there you go.
Better.
How's your day going, Senior Rob?
Yeah, good. It's nice to be in the chat and see Bayside still on his thing.
Oh, poor guy, man. You can't fault him, man. Not everyone can handle when their arch rival nemesis is making moves. It's unfortunate. It does happen. But Rob, obviously, let's just get to the shit because you're here. It's Thursday, so I know you have a show in about an hour and a half that you need to get to. So we're not going to sit here and just talk all day about nonsense. The Canelo to DAZN move. Obviously, you are DAZN's main PR guy. That's not true, everyone. I'm just saying it. But if you see our group chat, you can tell that Rob is the main PR guy at DAZN. DAZN, give this man a job. how big do you think this is? The 365 million 10-fight deal, Canelo, DAZN exclusive deal, all this stuff. How massive is it in your opinion?
Well, first of all, obviously, it's being touted as the biggest or most lucrative sporting deal in history, which for it to be a boxer, I guess, and not a heavyweight. I know Floyd's made serious money, and you'll obviously get to his tweets or Instagram posts later what he had to say about it all. But just purely for DAZN to get Canelo, forget money, forget anything like that, but just DAZN catching Canelo is obviously huge. It's going to, obviously in their eyes, hopefully bring in a ton of subscribers. Yeah, and I think the first one's free. They're giving Canelo fielding away free. I'm not sure how that's going to work if you subscribed, whether you miss a month of payment if you know, or what, or if you're new to it, but it's for the Canelo fight, you get it free. I'm not sure how they're going to make that work, but yeah, and obviously 10 more fights after that. Basically, I would imagine it's going to see him through to the end of his career. And shout out to DAZN, you know. I know Bayside's convinced that Golden Boy's going to take over and Eddie Hearn's been demoted and lost his job. But, Eddie was part of making this deal happen. If you listen to any interviews after the Boston card, he was then on a flight 7 a.m. Sunday morning to LA. John Skipper, who I believe wasn't he ESPN like TV?
I think so. He was. I think it was. I forget for ESPN, but he was at ESPN.
Yeah, he said to Eddie, "We're gonna go try and make the Canelo deal if we can." And Eddie was like, "So yeah, cool. I'm on the plane." And I believe that was on the Sunday, and this was like drafted and penciled in and kind of a done deal 2 days later, and it's been kept quiet until obviously it all broke the night before as usual, the night before the announcement. So yeah, this is huge. I think, you know, it's massive for DAZN, and obviously it's lined Canelo's pockets pretty well. But
now,
yeah,
in connection to this, let's briefly go just to the sources, obviously, just so that people can tell. Lance Pugmire is the one that broke the news for the Canelo deal. Definitely go check out his article. And also, interesting piece by, obviously, Dan Rayfield of ESPN discussing Gennady Golovkin's sort of future, how he is currently in negotiations with, obviously, DAZN, ESPN, Showtime, and a fourth unknown mystery network or entity. Also, in attachment to this, Daniel Jacobs, if he wins against Derevchenko, he'd be a IBF champion and move on to DAZN, obviously, with the belt. Andrade's there. It seems like, you know, we were talking about this off air that people may not know, but you had this wild, you know, obviously, in air quotes, wild conspiracy theory that I called it was a conspiracy theory about how all these dominoes would fall and DAZN would pick up the basically monopolized version of the middleweight division. And I said to you, Canelo is the domino that has to fall. Everything else can fall, but if Canelo does not fall, it does not work out in your plan. Canelo's the first one to fall, really, other than maybe Andrade, of course. I'm going to say it for you. It seems like your conspiracy might be right. It seems like in about 6 months' time, DAZN will have a monopoly on the middleweight division. They will have Andrade for their WBO belt. They have Canelo as a unified divisional champion, WBA and WBC. And obviously, Daniel Jacobs with the IBF. They will have every single belt on their platform. So first off, just salute to you for being right, potentially. Now, you also added that if they had that, the idea of getting guys like Charlo would be much easier. I'm assuming you're still of that mindset, or even more so now, that Eddie and or DAZN should go all after guys like a Jamal Charlo because they have basically all the negotiation power.
Yeah, I mean, you think. I mean, Eddie's. You know what Eddie's like when he's behind the thing. He was absolutely strutting around yesterday, loving it. I don't know, like whether at the time he knew there was some hate coming. Oh, this isn't Eddie Hearn, this, that, and the other. But he's part of this. Whether he's got some shares in DAZN, but he seems to be DAZN's guy. You know, he was part of this, even though people are saying Oscar went directly to DAZN. They didn't go through like Eddie to get, you know, apparently there was an original offer, and then it's on. There's an IFL with Coogan that sort of explains it all a little better, but I'm not that convinced that Charlo is going to do it, like make the jump. But he has to be thinking about it, like,
yeah,
the money isn't in the division anymore; it's on DAZN. If I want a money fight, it's on DAZN, because we all thought of all of them, it would be Triple G. Triple G will go across, like maybe a 1 fight, 2 fight, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to it a little more, you know, context, that K2 Ukraine, obviously the Ukraine branch of K2 Promotions, are obviously co-promoting Alexander Usyk with Matchroom Boxing and obviously DAZN. So it seemed, like you said, obvious for most of us that Triple G, under that K2 umbrella, would also be in a co-promotional deal with DAZN and or Matchroom. But that didn't happen yet. I still think it does happen, but it hasn't happened yet. Why, you know, just to sort of clarify your point about you still not thinking, or you doubting Charlo moving over, why is that? Because I feel like at this point, the people that are in your camp should really be banging the drum that Charlo needs to leave. Not leave PBC and Heyman and all that, because we still don't know if Jacobs in some way is still with Heyman. I presume he is. I presume Charlo can still be with Heyman and work with Eddie and DAZN. You know, it seems if you're Heyman, if you're Charlo, you would look and say, well, you just said, all the money right now for the midweight division is on DAZN. Why not make some overtures to get over there? Is it purely because of the new Fox money? Is it purely because of the new Showtime money?
I think so. I think they're going to have to make some real offer to the likes of Charlo, who's potentially a future, you know, headliner. I think he is, isn't he, the rumored headliner for the first inaugural Fox card out of this deal, I think. So I don't know whether they're going to chuck a heap of money at him, but it's just at what point does he say, this is great making this money, but I'm not getting any credit for these victories against whoever they can line him up against? I don't know who else is really going to be out there for Charlo to, you know, get his props and really, you know, earn his shine and be the star that, you know, a lot of us maybe think he could be. Because to do that, he's going to have to fight these guys that are on DAZN. And
the guys that aren't on DAZN that are relative to the top half of the middleweight picture, guys like Ryota Moreta, he's on ESPN. He's not on Fox and Showtime. Billy Joe Saunders, he's a Frank Warren fighter. They have some affiliation with obviously ESPN. Billy Joe Saunders has been offered a sort of, not rematch, but, you know, a sort of redoing the fight with Demetrius Andrade per Andrade winning, so that would sort of tie him up to DAZN. It just seems like if you're still Charlo, the only guy you have over there is William Monroe Jr. And no discredit to William Monroe, great guy, great friend of the show I used to be on, just an all-around good guy, but beating William Monroe doesn't get you the accolades that beating Triple G, Andrade, Canelo, Jacobs, even Moreta at this point. It just doesn't give you that sort of accolade like you would want it to.
No, exactly. And like I say, my initial reluctance is that Al and PBC or whoever are going to have to, they've got all these dates now. And if people are really thinking about, oh shit, you know, this DAZN shit, you know, the Canelo deal, wow. If like Eddie's been saying, I know I'll keep always saying that Eddie said, but I kind of possibly think this one might be true. But if there's been some guys that he's been talking to that haven't come across yet, that were thinking, no, I don't know, it's DAZN, nobody really knows it. And now this Canelo thing's happened. It's like, well, shit, if the biggest, you know, no pay-per-view attached, if the biggest star that's used to all this pay-per-view money goes across, you know, shit, you know what, I'll have some of that. So we're going to have to wait and see. I think we might see a couple more jump over, like fairly quickly, and some I think it will take a little more time, and they'll just see how things are going. And obviously fighters talk, and it gets around the boxing the circuit through the gyms and that, like, holy shit, whoever's making this much for his next fight, oh my god, and eventually I can see it a lot more jumping over. I mean, you see the likes of Gerald Hurd. Gerald Hurd's a big 154 pounder. Surely at one point he's going to be moving up to 160, and that's where DAZN have got the money again for the big fights at 160. Obviously Golden Boy with their stable coming across Munguia, we're expecting a Canelo Munguia fight, I'd imagine, in that deal somewhere along the line. And interestingly, people saying, "Oh, are Golden Boy and DAZN going to work together?" Apparently, Eddie on the December 15th Canelo card has got three or four fights available on that card. So it seems they're working together, and apparently there's talk already of Roman versus Ray Vargas has been sort of discussed, a unification fight.
Well, you have to remember that obviously that event is co-promoted. Like, it's not necessarily like the Golden Boy deal is in some sort of relationship with Eddie Hearn. Now, let's be honest, though, it doesn't matter. You're under the DAZN umbrella. Like, and I understand, like, that's a narrative that some people are trying to make out, that, oh, Eddie had nothing to do with this deal. He has nothing to do with Golden Boy. Oh, he's now number 2 on DAZN, and really Oscar and Canelo are number 1. They're the priority now. Eddie getting demoted. All that narrative is just so fucking stupid. Because
he was at the meeting that made the deal. If he wasn't involved, he wouldn't have been invited along.
Very quickly, Cameron saying he had an emergency. Don't worry about it, Cameron. Completely understand. Hope everything's okay. Let me know. Text me, whatever. Hope everything's all right. Prayers, best wishes, whatever is happening. Hope everything's okay.
Cameron, don't worry, I got you.
Yeah, we got the other UK guy here. Shout out to you, Rob, being the other UK guy now. That's funny. That's a little bit more of an inside joke between us, I think. But anyways, digressing. It's just such a bad narrative, sort of switching back to what we're talking about. It's such a bad narrative from the fans and certain media members, because it's just not relevant. It doesn't matter. Like, Eddie still has 32 events per year on DAZN. He is still obviously a fixture in their sort of PR department in a way. Eddie Hearn's their number 1 publicist right now. Let's be completely honest.
Yeah, who was sold, apart from me, who was sold DAZN anymore?
To the Hearns family? No one. No one outside the Hearns family have sold this app. So,
exactly.
So it doesn't matter. And again, this event with Rocky Fielding obviously is co-promoted by Matchroom. They're literally making promos for it. They're making posters for it. Cameron also adding Progress said he is available for the next show. Perfect. Can't wait to have Regis Progress on. Cameron just hit me up on the back end. Switching back to what we're saying, I just want to sort of quickly touch on that I know certain fans and media are playing that narrative up, and I think it just has no bearing on what's actually happening. Like, the fights are being made, people are getting paid, it doesn't really matter. Who cares if DAZN is putting more money into Canelo than, let's say, Eddie Hearn? It doesn't matter. That's obvious. They should. But it has no bearing on them making the fights, them getting events organized, them putting the same budget as they've contractually obligated themselves to. For Eddie, it just has no bearing on any actual, like, tangible effects, tangible things that people can point to. It's just an ether thing that people are describing and sort of pointing at. It's a pure talking point.
If there's any effects, it's all good. It's more eyes on Matchroom. If many of these stick around after Canelo fights, if they stay subscribed, they've got 32 Matchroom cards to watch. They've got the World Boxing Supers. It's more subscribers. It's more eyeballs. That was the whole point of Canelo being the signature. It's to drive subscription, surely. And I saw people that maybe are a little more clued up on it having to explain. And a friend of mine on Twitter was just, he must have had about 20 messages in a thread where he was trying to explain that this isn't touching Eddie Hearn's $1 billion Matchroom deal. This isn't Matchroom's money or Eddie's money going on Canelo. This is a separate deal. And I don't know. I think there's a whole lot of confusion with certain whether they're casuals or what, but that Eddie Hearn is DAZN, that Matchroom is DAZN.
And quickly,
now promoted by Eddie Hearn. It's like, no. And I just saw my friend. He was like, he finished it with a gif of a guy banging his head against the wall, and I was like, you know what? If you can't get it by now, I think I've explained it clearly enough. 17 times. I'm stopping right here. But
I'm gonna address it one more time just for the people listening, because good old Kaz, loyal listener, saying, "You really think Oscar's coming to DAZN and play second fiddle to Hearn? Dude, he is coming to take over." And I'll maybe make this very clear. DAZN doesn't give a fuck about who's number 1, who's number 2, who's number 3. They care about just having the most amount of content that they can. They're a completely new entity. When you go on DAZN.com, it is all combat sports, predominantly. It is, at least in the U.S. I don't know about it in other countries. In the U.S., it is all combat sports. So it's a rising tide. All boats will rise, and that is completely fine. I think DAZN has no intention of playing promoters against the other. They're in for their bottom line. And again, if DAZN's bottom line is good, that means Eddie's bottom line is good. That means Oscar's bottom line is good. And it just has such a, again, it's weird how usually like people will pit promoters and networks against each other. Like let's say Bob Arum and HBO and Golden Boy and Showtime back in the day, right? That was the more classic version, right? But now they're sort of pitting promoters against each other within the same network. That makes no sense. You think ESPN? You think anyone is like going over to like and thinking about like Frank Warren and Top Rank and saying, "Oh, Frank Warren's gonna come over here and take over the game from Bob Arum at ESPN"? No. You think Bob Arum's looking at it that way, vice versa? No. Like that is such a stupid idea to have that I do not know where that thought can come from, other than complete bias ignorance.
So, I mean, totally. I mean, it's the same for ESPN Plus. It's like we need as much content to get our value for money. Now, I've seen a few people saying, now you're going to have to correct me on this, Matt, if I'm wrong, but does ESPN Plus run commercials through shows? I believe they do.
I believe they do, but I'll be honest, I don't really like remember a commercial, if that makes sense.
No, that's fair enough. I just I think in the pre-pro, one of the our pre-pro was saying like, what's with these commercials? What's with the commercials? So it was obviously through a fight card there were commercials being shown. So that to me suggests that's maybe why they can run at $5 if they're also taking in commercial money, maybe, and that DAZN, if they're non-commercials, it's just
non-ad revenue.
Yeah, no ad revenue, so they're just charging that little bit more. But I don't know. I believe in the next coming months, more sports are being added to DAZN. I don't know what they'll be, whether there's going to be a big, because obviously if DAZN and Perform Group and forget the Russian Bolovnik or whatever his name, he's really got this vision of a sports Netflix. Surely things like, I know it'd be very difficult, but NFL, NBA, things like that have got to be somewhere on the agenda at some point in time. Because
if they want to back up the claims of like really entering into like the entire U.S. sporting like market, then they obviously have to sort of poach one of those big fours, like it has to be hockey, NFL, MLB, or NBA, right? It has to be one of those big four that falls. I don't think MLS does it. To be quite honest, I don't think any soccer will do it, or football. I don't think any of that will do it.
I mean, it would catch a certain amount, but it's not like groundbreaking.
It'd be the same as like, let's say, like as a microscopic sense, like Matchroom Boxing for all of boxing, right? Matchroom produces some good content, right? Just like MLS produces good content in the U.S. sporting world. But that's also a niche market within the greater sporting world, similar to Matchroom being a niche market within the greater boxing world. You need to tackle one of those big four. It's not happening anytime soon. They all have I want to say relatively long-term contracts for the foreseeable future, especially the NBA and the NFL do, because they just re-upped, and they had their whole issue with the athletes getting more money because of it. Shout out to unions, Project Spearhead. If you're a fighter in the UFC, go contact them. But yeah, I sort of lost what I was saying and where the question was, Rob. I apologize.
It's just about the DAZN maybe getting hold of like NFL rights and stuff.
That would be a 5-year plan.
Yeah,
yeah.
And we've got to remember that. How long have we just purely known about? When did Eddie do the $1 billion announcement? That was
about 4 months ago.
4, maybe 5.
Yeah.
So in that space of time, they've got Joshua signed in, they've got Canelo signed in, and I'm sure there's more on the way. I mean, he's obviously Big Baby is rumored or confirmed to be on the November 17th card, so that's a quick turnaround for Big Baby. Better Biev is another quick turnaround. Active, fighters are all getting lots of fights, so it's kind of delivering what he said. I know there was all the I'm going to sign Deontay Wilder and the Charlos and the this and the that and the that, and it's like, all right, well, let's see it then. And then it's like, oh, Jesse Vargas versus Delorme, and I get it. I get the people were like, oh yeah, nice, yeah, this is just what you told us we were going to be getting. But they've just landed Canelo, the US pay-per-view proven star. So I think there's only
well, I mean, it's like one of those things where, like, obviously there has been some backlash to this news, obviously. And if he had signed to ESPN, if he had signed to Showtime and Fox, there wouldn't have been that backlash.
No.
It's because there's this new entity on the block that a lot of the establishment, media, and promoters and entities of the sport are sort of fighting against.
And there's also, I believe, a lot of Eddie hate attached to it.
Yeah, of course there is. I mean, Eddie...
Joshua Wilder negotiations.
Anyone that is outspoken in sports receives a lot of hate. They end up being polarizing. Eddie Hearn's just a polarizing figure. And like I've said this to you, like when he came on and said like, oh, this is a sign that all of like Showtime and HBO are dead, paraphrasing. Obvious troll. Showtime just doubled their budget. It's similar to when he said Showtime's bankrupt and then they doubled their budget. He's just a troll. And again, people especially fans, put way too much stock into what these promoters are saying. But quickly, Rob, I will cut you off because we are joined by our co-host, Mr. Cameron Gillen. Cameron, it's okay that you're late. It happens. I hope everything's okay. How you doing, man?
Yeah, what's going on, man? I thought I'd just jump on. Shout out to everyone in the chat. I thought I'd jump on, man, because I don't know. Like, yeah, I mean, I had plans. I had plans, and Progress was going to come on, and it got shut down because I had to take some stuff. And I thought I'd jump on, man, because just so I didn't completely miss the show, So.
Oh, don't worry about it, man. Hey, if you're busy, you're busy, man. Like seriously, if you have something up right now, it is okay. Like you're not an employee. There is no contract. Like it is okay.
I like the show. I love the show. You know what I mean? And the people in the chat are good. I just wanted to come on, let you know that, like I said, I spoke to Progray literally 10 minutes ago, and he said he's good, like, any night this week going forward now. So, if you're doing another show this week, then just let me know, man, and I'll let him know, and he will come on.
Let's schedule it for tomorrow, okay?
Yeah, I'll message him now. He said he's available tomorrow night, so I'll hit him up. So, yeah, we can do it tomorrow night.
Sounds good.
So I just wanted to let you know, man. I just wanted to make sure that it was still happening. Just got cut off tonight.
Do you want to say anything about the news, anything about the fights? I know you're a little bit busy.
What fights are you talking about?
Well, right now, we're not talking about any of the fights. We're talking about the Canelo $365 million deal, 10 fights, all of that information and news. Thoughts on that?
Yes, I mean, I said on Twitter yesterday about this. I said Canelo joined the DAZN. It benefits a lot, but it also benefits that if any fighters before I said this, I think on did we do a show about this before? Like the last show, no? Or
yeah, well, last show we talked about Canelo going to DAZN, but the money and the 10-fight deal was not announced.
Right, yeah. Like I said before, I think it's massive. Like I said, I think for DAZN, it's gonna kind of encourage other fighters to come over to the DAZN as well. I said that on the last show, and I think it's a massive deal, right? I mean, I wasn't expecting it. I think I saw also on Twitter tonight that literally just now that Golovkin is still open. He's still looking at his own network deal. I think he'll head over to the DAZN as well now because of this Canelo deal. It's kind of a, like I said on the last show, it's kind of a monopoly effect with Canelo joining the DAZN. I think a lot's going to happen, a lot's going to change. But it's good, you know what I mean? I think it's going to be interesting. I saw somebody on Twitter this morning say that Canelo could lose more eyes in terms of, viewership because of the move. Not too sure about that. I think he'll probably get more, actually. It's going to bring a lot of attention to the DAZN, and yeah, man, I think it's good. It's good for boxing. And anybody who hates on this, man, I don't understand it.
I agree. There's definitely a lot of hate out there, though. Any sort of last thoughts on the Canelo deal before we move on to sort of the fights this weekend and break them down, Rob?
No, just again, it's just I believe purely on to drive subscription, and just make the DAZN bigger and bigger, and if it shakes up the boxing world, then maybe that is a good thing. Perhaps it's all got a little bit too comfortable, and the DAZN have come in and woken everybody up a little.
Can I ask, Rob, are you the one that followed me on Twitter and DM me?
Yes, mate. Yeah.
What's going on, man? What's the funny speech, man?
Yeah, you too, mate. Yeah,
yeah, man. But I just thought I'd jump on, man. I got to shoot. I just want to come on and just let you know what's going on.
Cam. Don't worry about it, Cam. You have a good day, man. Okay, or good night.
Take it easy.
All right, man. But yeah, I agree, Rob. I like that you added the whole shakeup thing, because we are in such a time of upheaval in the sport. Like, we really are. Like, I know that when you're in the eye of the storm, you don't tell that it's hard to tell there's a storm around you, because everything's calm. Because right now everything's a little bit calm still in our eyes. It's such a gradual shift in our eyes. It's not the entire sport's not changing in 24 hours, but in the last year, last 2 years, last 3 years, we've seen real significant change to how we watch the sport, how we view the sport, how we understand the sport, how we police the sport. So much is changing that I think, again, I always talk about this. In 10, 15, 20 years from now, when we look back on this era, it is a historic era. Like 2013 to 2000 whatever is going to be a time we look back on and say, man, this sport changed so much in that time frame, in that decade of time. And stuff like going to streaming, the end of pay-per-view, it seems, in the U.S. in a lot of ways. Obviously, Fox and ESPN have still talked about pay-per-views. That is obvious. However, with really the only pay-per-view star in the U.S., depending on what the Wilder Tyson Fury numbers turn out to be, is Canelo, and he's no longer on pay-per-view. It's seemingly the end of pay-per-view in the U.S. WWE is no longer doing pay-per-view in the U.S. in a way. You can just have the WWE network. The UFC has talked about cutting back on pay-per-views. It's just a drastic change in the sport and the paradigms of it. And it's good to sort of once in a while reflect on that while we're in it. Because once this change happens and it's over and we're in the new paradigm of what the sport is like, it's going to be hard to sort of go back and have hindsight about certain things. But anyways, Rob, let's get to the fights this weekend, whatever fights there are, because there's not that many. Though what fights there are on DAZN. There is a very, I'm not gonna say obscure because that's harsh to PFL and all my homies that cover PFL. It's just I don't care about PFL 11 or whatever 10 for MMA this weekend, so I'm not gonna talk about PFL on Saturday. In my mind, there's only 2 fight cards this weekend: the World Boxing Super Series event. And obviously the Demetrius Andrade, Kautondokwa fight. Rob, first off, I want to hear your pronunciation of Walter's name. We might just call him Walter, by the way. I don't think we're actually going to say his last name throughout the show.
No, you can't do that because you took your overlay off. I can't look at it and read it. Hang on, there we go. Yeah.
Here we go. Overlay right here.
Walter. Yeah.
Walter.
Good old Walt. No, It's got to be Kautondokwa.
Man, that was actually really good, Rob.
Kautondokwa.
For like a middle-aged white guy in the UK, I feel like you nailed that pronunciation.
Kautondokwa.
But I feel like we're also fucking completely wrong because I can see that happening. Have you watched any tape on Walter here at all?
No, I can honestly say I've not seen this guy fight ever. I kept meaning to. Like, I had a little bit like, a break at work. Kept thinking, I'm going to look at this guy because apparently he's a heavy hitter. But then you think, who's he been heavily hitting? I'm not sure of his resume that badly, but I guess there's always a danger. Andrade was ready for or preparing for Billy Joe, and then this guy coming. I wonder how much they even know about him. I know he's in Andrade's sanctioning body over there in the WBO, and that's why he was next in line for this. But I don't know. I'm sure he will take him seriously. He doesn't want to pull a Jesse Vargas on this one and, fluff his lines and mess up and miss out on this. It's just going to be a shame if he doesn't get his props. He's obviously been waiting in the wings, and for whatever reason, he's not had it. I think Ron said this, actually. I'm probably just, he's the mastermind and knows a lot more than I do. But Andrade, obviously, hopefully will get his dues for this. But will he get it? We'll have to wait and see what the public say. But I think he'd have to wait his time, because I believe Eddie has said that Jacobs will be favourite to face Canelo in May. So whether that's something that they already have planned for Eddie to say he's favourite, or he's just throwing it out there, who knows. But yeah, hopefully Boo Boo can pull it off for DAZN. But yeah, maybe we'll have to watch a little bit of tape building up to this just to see what this Kautondokwa is all about.
So I've watched Walter a little bit. I've seen a couple of his fights.
Yeah, so you get to say Walter.
Yeah, I'm not saying his last name. I'm good, man. I've said it enough this week, and I've spelled it enough. That's the thing. It's not really saying it. It's having to type it a lot. That is the worst. But actually, I almost have it memorized. Shout out to me. But anyways, Walter over here, he's pretty good for being a guy of relative unknown commodity. He's a pretty good boxer. Stands pretty tall, has a good jab. When actually sort of comparison, not a true comparison, but slightly. When Daniel Jacobs has sort of a slower paced fight, where he uses the jab a lot, he stands pretty tall, fights at long range. That Daniel Jacobs?
Yeah.
That's kind of how Walter fights. And if he lands a shot, he'll swarm you and finish you, obviously, because he has a pretty extreme knockout ratio. But he's a very methodical guy in terms of what he wants to do. They're really slow-paced. I like that, to be honest. I mean, from a regional fighter that really hasn't gone to the world level yet, I like to see a guy that's methodical. I saw that in Julius Ndongo when he was on his come-up, when I picked him to beat Trinovsky. Stuff like that, that sort of composure. That's always something I want to see out of a young fighter. However, I've also seen him get hit quite a bit, and at a very local level in Namibia. So I think Demetrius Andrade should come out here, catch Walter at some point, and finish him relatively early. I don't know what it is, but I don't get that sort of inkling I have with Walter that I had with even Ndongo. But even then, Ndongo is facing Trinovsky, another unknown commodity. Walter's not coming in and facing an unknown commodity. He's facing Demetrius Andrade, who's one of the more underrated fighters that we have. Do we have an Isaac Dogbe here? I don't know. I just doubt it, to be quite honest.
What price? I don't know if we ever knew what Dogbe was against Magdaleno, because we can maybe gauge it a little. But Walter is a plus 800 for the fight. That's by KO. He's plus 700 just to win the fight.
Yeah, I can see that. I forget what Dogbe's odds were, but I remember there was really good journalists out there like Kenneth Boyer of sportingnews.com, I think is that right now. You know, he was banging the drum for Isaac Dogboe heading into that fight. He was a Olympic level, you know, fighter or amateur fighter. So Dogboe even had a lot more sort of push behind him heading into the Jesse Madaleno fight, even though it was still against Jesse Madaleno. This fight's different. Walter doesn't have that sort of push from what I see. I don't see certain media members that I always look to for these unknown commodities sign off on him. And that makes me wary of what we have here in Walter. But let's move on, unless you have any other thoughts on Andrade versus Walter Kautondokwa.
Nice, you did it.
That was good, huh? That was good. I tried.
No, obviously, Eddie's been banding around that hopefully in 10 days' time we'll have all the bouts of the middleweight division. So again, it's on Andrade and Jacobs to you know, make that happen. So yeah, I'm sure Andrade will be slick enough to do the, you know, pull this one off. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, I haven't seen Walter and not really seen a lot of Andrade, to be honest. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Should be good. Quickly,
because I see Bayside spreading not necessarily fake news, but just like misinformed news. The number that he is referencing from Mike Coppinger for the AJ Povetkin fight is live viewers. So the live viewership, the peak viewership for AJ and Povetkin on DAZN was 15,000 people. That is not the total subscription of DAZN. But that is an accurate number, yes, from Mike Coppinger.
He's been writing that for about 3 weeks now in every single chat. All the, you know, fuck DAZN, it's shit. I'm not watching anything of DAZN. He's in every single press conference that DAZN do a YouTube feed on.
I want smoke.
I'm sure. And then he said, I won't be paying for DAZN to watch Canelo. I'm not paying for, but he's still going to watch it. So, you know, it is what it is. We're all boxing fans, just different levels,
different intelligence levels. Move on to Tevin Farmer versus James Tennyson. Obviously, it should be a showcase. James Tennyson is just not world level. Tevin Farmer is slightly. He at least has world level talent. If maybe he does not put it together quite right, I think Tevin Farmer should win quite handedly, dominantly, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's skilled. He's very good defensively, but Tennyson can crack. That's all I'm going to say. But I'm not necessarily picking Tennyson. I hope Leonard Sterling in the chat will pop up in a second and give us his opinion on that one, because he's very clued up on these things. Leonard, people should look up Leonard.
Leonard's awesome. Shout out to Leonard Sterling, man. One of like the OGs of, I feel like, not boxing Twitter, but like just the boxing community. The guy's like in his 50s, I feel like. Well, he said he was pretty old, I want to say. And he's what was that, Rob?
He said he definitely will pop up in the chat if he's nowhere near 50.
That is true. He would definitely pop up in the chat if he's not. That is true. You're right about James Tennyson can crack, but that means little at the world level. If like that's all you have, that's not much, because James Tennyson isn't to me a skilled boxer. You know, like at least guys like Louis Ritson, when they were, you know, they can crack, they were just unrelenting forces. James Tennyson is not that guy, in my opinion. But anyways, we're all in agreement here. Tevin Farmer should win this one. Kid Galahad versus Toka Khan Clary. I feel like Kid Galahad should win this one, obviously, quite easily. He's been on a run recently. Doing quite well.
I'd be interested to see Kid Galahad perform again. Hopefully, he's on point, because I think he's very. He could be quite top end in this division, and I think this is eliminator for the winner of Warrington and Frampton. So,
yeah, I would love to see a Josh Warrington Kid Galahad fight. Like that would be all action. That would be really exciting. Speaking of really exciting, though, Katie Taylor, the Unified. unified champ, fighting her toughest opposition to date, Cindy Serrano, who's been undefeated for some time now. God, undefeated since 2012. Also, though, just for note, she is jumping up in weight quite a bit, jumping up 2 weight classes for this fight. That, to me, is probably going to be the major sticking point of how I sort of pick this fight, even though I think Cindy Serrano has the skill and grit enough to make this a back-and-forth competitive fight with Katie Taylor. Taylor's size, her reach, should be a determining factor against Serrano when really their skills are relatively equal, or at least only marginally different here. I expect Taylor to have a rough early few rounds. I expect Serrano to come out highly aggressive, as she should. She has the experience on her side, and Taylor to sort of pick it up after maybe the 4th or 5th round and start winning a little more convincingly in those rounds, working off her jab a little bit more convincingly as well. Your thoughts on probably the best fight of the weekend, arguably?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I think Jessa McCaskill gave Taylor probably her toughest fight to date, and I think that might change after this weekend. Yep. But I would still lean towards Katie Taylor on this. I noticed she said she wanted to beat both the sisters, and now one of them's already ducked out of that by going to MMA. So she's only got the one sister to deal with now. So I expect.
Come on! Why are you making that narrative, man?
I just have to do it. But yeah, I expect Katie Taylor to come through this, even though I think it might possibly be her toughest fight. And interestingly, I believe I obviously didn't hear the telecast, but the telecast of ESPN, but they were kind of running the idea of maybe Michaela Mayer down the line for Taylor.
It makes sense. Obviously, they're both lightweights. Taylor has that sort of not draw. I don't know if I can say it's a draw yet, but she is sort of a notable boxer in the UK market, which is a obviously exploding market right now. If you're Michaela Mayer, it makes a lot of sense to sort of angle Katie Taylor to be your big fight. It's a sellable fight. It makes a lot of sense. And plus, it's a fight that Michaela Mayer, who's so tall for the weight class, and Katie Taylor pretty average for the weight class, to be quite honest, in terms of height, reach. Mayer may win that and down the line, give her, a few more years to work on. But in 2 or 3 years, 4 years' time, when they fight, that's a competitive, fun fight that I can't wait for.
Yeah, I agree. I'm quite impressed with Mayer, but yeah, I see Leonard Sterling's killed me in the chat saying this isn't going to be her toughest fight, and the Serrano sisters' resume are weak. Easy W for Katie Taylor, but no, I think she's coming to fight. And
very quickly, just to sort of touch on that, I think there's an argument to say that Serrano sisters are a little bit overrated. I'm not going to really fault him for making that argument, but to say that this isn't her toughest fight to date, I mean, I just doubt that. I highly do, unless the size difference is so drastic. I don't see how Cindy Serrano doesn't give her her toughest fight to date. Katie Taylor hasn't really been in there with the best opposition to date as well. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, very quickly to touch on it, this is going to be close to like a home time fight for Katie Taylor as well, by the way. I believe she trains very close nearby, and she's actually got quite a lot of support in the Boston area. So it's going to be, I'm sure she sold a bunch of tickets over there. I think at the original presser, she seemed to have a lot of, support and people cheering her on and stuff because it was outdoors, right? When it was Billy Joe and Andrade was dressed up as the.
God, that was so bad.
Yeah,
that was
a bit.
That was corny. That was just so trash. Quick mention of some people on the undercard. Tommy Coyle on the undercard. Scott Quigg on the undercard. Daenerys Ulisinoff on the undercard. And those are really, in my opinion, the only people on the undercard worth of note, I would say.
Yeah, no. See, the thing with DAZN, you can tune in from, the first fight right the way through to Andrade. So you got a night of boxing. If some of you don't know some of these guys, it's an opportunity to check them out. You may have heard the names, you may not, but not seen footage of them or not seen them because it was on a UK card or it was on and you used to have to get dodgy links for it. But, now you can watch it all from sort of start to finish. So, if you're a boxing fan, I don't know why you don't want to watch as much boxing as you can.
Well, I mean, not all boxing's worth watching. Let's be completely honest. No offense to the boxers out there, but that's just the truth.
Why do you watch it all, Matt?
I do not watch it all. There is definitely some shit I skip. 100%. Rob, I know you skip some events.
Yeah, I do.
You have to. It is actually pretty hard, especially when you have nowadays. There's 3 or 4 events a weekend.
Yeah, because you're missing one for this weekend. You got Anthony Yard on a UK card over here.
Yeah, but I'll find that. I'll find that main event. You know that that'll be on. There'll be a stream of that somewhere. However,
yes.
Why is that not an ESPN Plus event? Because that's the Frank Warren fighter, is it not? Or
is it not?
I don't think it's not. It's not ESPN Plus.
Oh well, then I don't know.
Yeah, that is odd. Because I was looking at ESPN schedule and they didn't have anything for it. Usually they have the network attached to it or something like that, right?
Oh, right.
They had nothing attached to that. I don't know why that is. But from what I last saw, we're not getting the Anthony Yard fight, so I have to find a stream for that. But anyways,
because you got Gorman on there.
Mm-hmm.
Who else is on that card? Just very quick little notes happening. Bradley Skeet coming back after the loss. So, was it in Spain? Nathan Gorman, Anthony Yard, Gary Cochran. Yeah, so a few fights on there people may wanted to have watched, but apparently it's less. So
it does happen. Shit does happen, unfortunately. Yeah, I just looked at ESPN schedule. It is not an ESPN Plus event. There is a ESPN event, obviously tonight. Jason Quigley versus Freddie Hernandez, Eddie Gomez versus Shaka Sakai, Romel Cabrillo, Ray Perez on the card. I'll be honest, I used to be really hyped on Jason Quigley. I used to think he was a really good prospect that had a lot of potential. Very quickly, Leonard saying it's supposed to be on ESPN Plus, Matt. I'm just telling you what ESPN.com is telling me on their schedule. It is not listed as an ESPN Plus event. It has no network attachment to it. It's just there. Go at them. Rob says he's going to jump off shortly. Rob, how about you just give final thoughts on anything you want to talk about before you head out then? Because I know you have a show to do.
Yeah, no, obviously the Canelo thing's been a massive thing this week. We're just going to have to sit back and wait and see, what this big thing, the ripple effect, who's going to come across, who's not, what PBC maybe have to do in response to all this to try and maybe keep hold of certain fighters. I don't know. Eddie's mentioned Mikey, who was sort of on the edge of, should I do it? Should I do it? Is this enough now to make him jump across? We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, decent weekend of some cards. So hopefully we get some good fights and you've got plenty to talk about. But as always, Matt, boxing is the sport that keeps on giving. We've always got some headlines to talk about. Usually something breaks just before you go on air. So yeah, everybody, help Matt out, support the show, subscribe, tell your friends. Yeah.
Thank you, Rob.
ASO Boxing, it's been a pleasure as always to see you rant on your bullshit. So
well, thank you, Rob. That was a great call, and obviously it's always an open invitation for MCR. Gary, I do see you on the line. Let me briefly run down these fights and then go to you. Jason Quigley fighting Freddie Hernandez should be an easy win still for Jason Quigley. I'm not hyped on him as much as I used to be. He definitely has just some flaws to his game. However, him changing camps, leaving the Manny Robles sort of system, I think should be beneficial to him long term. Eddie Gomez God knows what his sort of career is in front of him. He should win against Shoki Sakai, though. Let's be completely honest. If he doesn't, that is definitely concerning. And actually, I may brief. Oh no, I totally forgot about this card. How dare I? Shots at me. That's what happens when you jump around on my sort of screen here. But the World Boxing Super Series card: Emmanuel Rodriguez versus Jason Moloney, and Moloney Dorticos versus Masternak. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. Mike Perez versus Keith Tappy on the card as well. I'll be honest, this event doesn't get me hyped. I'm just being really brutally honest. Unlike last weekend's, which I actually was hyped for, I wanted to see Tabiti, I wanted to see Zolan Tete again, and they just put on awful performances. This one, I'm not expecting much. I'm not hyped for anything, but we're probably going to get all-action fights. I see Emmanuel Rodriguez, Jason Moloney styles really meshing well to produce an all-action fight. I still don't think Jason Moloney is at this level, to be quite honest. I don't think he's a Jeff Horn waiting in the wings. I think Emmanuel Rodriguez is just that good. I think he should be able to catch Moloney in a brutal firefight. Probably later on the fight, round 7 to 9, catch Moloney after a brutal sort of, again, 7 rounds of going back and forth, and it just being the final straw, and Moloney, succumbing to it TKO style. Moloney Dorticos versus Masternak, that should be a bloodbath. I mean, if Dorticos doesn't come out here and completely maul and brutalize and embarrass Masternak, it would be similar to like the Tete Lion fight, where it just doesn't make sense. My head doesn't compute how that could happen. It seems to be such an obvious potential drumming for Masternak that I don't see a potential for Dorticos to really putting on a bad performance. However, this is his first fight since his loss to Murat Gassiev. That is highly concerning. First off, the layoff. Secondly, not having a tune-up in between. This is arguably a tune-up, to be fair, but that is one concern. We might see Dorticos be slow in the start because of the layoff. In fact, he's coming off that loss. But yeah, that's about it in terms of that card and the boxing fights and just fights overall this weekend. There is a PFL card this weekend. I believe our good friend of the show, Anthony Walker from Sheradog, will probably be covering it. I won't, just being completely honest. We're going to briefly go through this one news announcement because it's really the only news of the day for boxing, and then go to Gary's call because Gary said I can take my time. Let's get the dramatic music out because the messiness. God bless the messiness. Floyd Mayweather. God bless Floyd Mayweather. Only because situations like this are hilarious. Going on Instagram saying hashtag with the picture of him punching Canelo from their fight. Hashtag Throwback Thursday. It didn't matter if Canelo ate his PD steak or not this night. This was by far the easiest fight of my career. Conor McQuitter, I will say awful name, was a way better fighter than Canelo's cheating ass, and I beat the brakes off of him too. It takes me 36 minutes or less to make 300 million plus. It literally takes me one night and one fight to make what you make in 5 years and 11 fights. So really, who's still winning? Oh, god damn. God, that is bad. And then he goes on with a picture of Oscar saying, Throwback Thursday again, 11 years ago, I fought her, and her name is Oscar Golden Girl De La Hoya. Please leave the most disrespectful caption you can think of. And it's a picture of the infamous picture of Oscar De La Hoya in fishnets, heels, and boxing gloves. This is just nasty all around. And then on top of that, Oscar with the comeback. And you know what? He might have won this round. I'll be honest. Saying, hey, at Canelo, someone is salty about your record-breaking contract with DAZN. Good thing we will never resort to hitting women. Hashtag domestic abuser. Hashtag domestic violence. hashtag anti-domestic violence, hashtag salty, hashtag Floyd Mayweather, hashtag salty Floyd, hashtag Floyd salty Mayweather, hashtag why you mad. I'm just saying Oscar won that round. I mean, obviously, the thing is that the picture, well, obviously embarrassing for Oscar, and just to be honest, it's so old now that I feel, we don't, not that we don't care, but we just sort of like, oh yeah, the picture, and we move on. It's nothing new. Same with the domestic violence, to be honest, to be sort of fair. However, no one really goes to that as much. Maybe it's out of fear of pissing off Floyd and now Heyman. I don't know what it is, but people rarely go to, well, Floyd, at least we don't resort to hitting women. And whenever anyone does, it's awesome. I think Mayweather and the boxing world always needs a reminder that its biggest star is a convicted domestic violence offender. So let's not forget that. Also, I completely forgot. Shots at me. The Raider Moreta Rob Brandt fight. Not that I completely forgot. I just forgot to put it as a tab. And mainly because this is probably the easiest fight, in my opinion, to pick of the weekend. And plus, the card itself just isn't that good. Michael Collins on the card. Good to see him. Maxim Dadashev is on the card against Antonio DeMarco. That's an interesting fight. But other than that, I'm not too intrigued about the main event. Rob Brandt, in my opinion, has not done anything to really not earn this shot, because that's such a harsh term, but he hasn't done anything, in my opinion, to make me think he's competitive in this fight. Completely getting outclassed by Jürgen Brähmer is a really bad sign. And Moreta, even though he hasn't been the world beater, the next great that people sort of picked Inoue or Koze Tanaka to be, he is still a very effective and fundamental boxer with heavy hands. He should get Rob Brandt out of here late rounds 7 to 10, or go all 12 and win a very convincing, unanimous decision. But that's really all I have to say about that event. Let's go over to Gary in Dallas. Again, call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in your queue, or to get in the queue. And if you're international, email me, mixcombatradio, and get a free international call-in link. Gary in Dallas. What's up, Gary?
What's going on, Matt?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Hanging in there, man. Floyd is not TBE when it comes to that trash-talking game. He gets owned by 50 on the regular, and now he just lost this round to Oscar. He needs to stay in his lane. If he wants to come back in the ring, do that, but just stay out of the trash-talking game, because that is not his forte. I wanted to talk real quick. What did you pick the Emmanuel Rodriguez fight with Jason Moloney? Did you say it was going to be a war? Did you think that's going to be a good fight?
I think it's going to be a good fight. I see those styles matching up very well.
If Moloney comes out aggressive, which I would think that he has to, you don't see him getting steamrolled, I think the fight goes on more than 3 or 4 rounds.
I mean, it could be that quick, but I'm sort of sticking to the stereotype of, what's durable Australian fighters. I haven't seen Moloney get nearly as hurt as, let's say, Jeff Horn on the come up. When he fought guys like Randall Bailey and Funeka, he got hurt in those fights, and he ended up being highly durable against guys like Manny Pacquiao and even Terrence Crawford for a long period of time. But I can see your point. I can see it being 3 or 4 rounds if it's highly aggressive, all action. I think whatever we get, it's probably going to be entertaining, though.
It'll be entertaining as long as it lasts. The only time I've seen Moloney fight was, I think it was his last fight against the Japanese guy, Kono. Mm-hmm. So I'm not, that's the only, I'm making my entire judgment off Moloney off of that one fight. I've never seen him fight besides that. But I'll see check him out on YouTube to see. But that's the only time I've seen Moloney fighting. Conor was like 37 and a natural 112 and 115 pounder fighting at 118. I don't think that was like the best version of him, even though he had a really good career.
I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. I'm just saying that I think, and also I'm not saying that I think Moloney wins the fight. I think it's just an all-action fight. I don't see Emmanuel Rodriguez picking defense over offense. He's not that type of fighter. That's not really in his calculations from what I've seen. He's a guy that wants to come forward and throw really mean, compact hooks. And similar to Moloney, that's what he wants to do. So I see both these guys meeting at mid-range and exchanging hooks for long periods of time and trying to slip shots on the inside in the mid-range and really avoid the outside game completely. So that's really my sort of perception on it. I think it's a fun fight. It's all action. I don't think Moloney wins it, though. He doesn't really have the pop, I think, to catch Rodriguez mid-combination and hurt him. He might catch him mid-combination, but I don't think he has that pop to hurt him.
Right, which is how I saw it. And Rodriguez is a real puncher at 118.
Mm-hmm.
So I just saw Moloney basically fighting into Rodriguez's hand. Like, I kind of like Moloney. Yeah, it'll be action. There won't be any, pauses in the fight. It'll be an all-action fight. But Moloney, I think, fights right into Rodriguez's hand. You guys, you have to get Rob back on once a week. You need to get UK Hour Mixed Combat Radio style. You got to have that once a week like you guys used to on the old show.
I would love that. I would love that, Gary. You got to go at UK Rob TBV on Twitter and hound him and give him a bunch of bullshit to get on the show. The invite is always there.
All right, because that was my favorite show on the old network was the UK Hour. I was listening to Rob give the pro Eddie Hearn DAZN view on everything. I wanted to talk about the DAZN deal with Canelo real quick too. Because this reminds me of something. You may not be old enough to remember this, but I'm from Dallas, Texas. And the Texas Rangers signed Alex Rodriguez in 2001 to this ridiculous, unheard of contract. And they basically paid him $116 million for the 3 years that he played with the Rangers. And it basically crippled their franchise. They couldn't sign anybody else. And he only played for the Rangers from 01 to 04 and ended up paying them until 2009. And as soon as that contract ended, they became good again. Right? What I'm saying is, like, I don't know how you run something when you're giving one guy that much money. Like, what if Canelo gets knocked out by Jacob? Like, that's or something like that. That's a realistic thing, right? Like, I'm not saying anything crazy. Like, he gets knocked out by Selby. But, like, what if he fights Jacobs next and gets knocked out by him?
Look,
and there's no more appeal in it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he still owes all this money.
Very quickly, Gary, to use your same analogy, right? The great analogy, and I actually do remember it, even though I was pretty young back then. I do remember that the whole shit, and also I remember every year that he was a Yankee, that was a talking point as well. So I remember that. Great comparison. I think that's a really valid talking point, or not talking point, argument to have, discussion to have. Year after year, did Alex Rodriguez, regardless of them winning a World Series, them reaching a pennant, did the same number of fans tune into Alex Rodriguez baseball games? The same amount of people bought tickets. That uptick in overall attendance, viewership, that stayed, right? Regardless of the wins and losses. Can we agree on that?
For the Yankees, not with the Rangers, right? Because the Yankees have Alex Rodriguez. I mean, that's a city of like 20 million people. Yeah, they'll sell out every game. That's not a problem. But for the Rangers, it was hot when he first got there. And then once the Rangers, you realize that they're still a work team in baseball. They're just the work team in baseball with the best player in baseball on their team. Yeah, that kind of died. I mean, it wasn't like, okay, when does football season start kind of thing. Like,
I don't know about that.
The Rangers any better at all.
I don't know about that. I think in terms of viewership and attendance, maybe the perception of it changed, but the people still shell out money for A-Rod. And obviously he went on to the Yankees and became a mega star over there as well. He was always a star. My point is that regardless of, let's say in your theory that Canelo loses to Jacobs next, what do they do next? The same thing they've been doing. Promote the biggest star. And that is still Canelo. Regardless of him losing to Jacobs, he will still be the biggest star in the face of U.S. boxing. He just is.
Okay, I like Canelo. I'm not saying that he couldn't win all of these fights, but he could also lose to Jacobs. He could lose to Charlo. He could lose to Andrade. Not that he would lose, but those guys. And I think Andrade, just stylistically, I want to see how he looks against at times 160 pounds. Because I still think he's going to be small for the division. But Andre is all wrong for Canelo. That is a terrible stylistic fight for Canelo. So, I mean, like, and I think Charlo beats him. I don't know if that fight would ever happen, but it could be mandated. So, like, you know, he could potentially lose to all those guys. If he loses to those guys, or any two of those guys, is he still really the biggest draw in the sport?
Hold on one second, because I want to look at something very quickly. Okay. I think a really good comparison here is Mr. Golden Boy himself, Oscar De La Hoya. How many losses did he have before he fought Floyd Mayweather?
He lost most of his big fights. I'll say he had like 4 losses probably.
Yep. What was
he lost
it?
to Mosley twice. He lost to
B-Hop. He lost to B-Hop. He lost to Trinidad. Yeah. What was his biggest pay-per-view buy rate?
Before the Mayweather fight?
No, just period.
The Mayweather fight, I would imagine, over the past, yeah. I would say it was Mayweather.
It was Mayweather, right? At 2.4 million pay-per-view buys. So after all these losses, him getting knocked out by Bernard Hopkins just 2 fights earlier, he goes and does 2.5 or 2.4 million pay-per-view buys. Loses to Mayweather, beats Steve Forbes, and goes fight Manny Pacquiao, does 1.8 million pay-per-view buys. Every Mosley fight was big. Once you're a star, you're a star. Like, that rarely changes. You can see guys have runs in boxing, guys be headliners and fall off. But if you're a superstar, if you're a megastar, and that is what Canelo is, let's not forget that. Let's not get twisted just because he is a Mexican guy. He's not Mexican-American like Oscar. He doesn't speak English, but he is still a fucking superstar in the U.S. That will not change. He can lose to Jacobs. Okay. It will not change. He can lose to Andrade. It will not change. Why? Because all those fights are still going to be big. DAZN doesn't really care if Canelo wins. That's the secret. They just need Canelo. They just need his attachment because he will make those fights big regardless. He just will.
I can see your point. The one thing I would say about Oscar, though, love him or hate him, right? Oscar was always willing to take the big fight, right? Even when he couldn't make the fight with Tito, because Tito was with Don King and he was with Bob Arum, he went out and fought Ike Forte, who I thought was the best 147-pounder at the time, right? So he took the next best fight that was available to him. If Canelo does that, if Canelo keeps taking the mega fight, and he's in a low division where he can do that, then yeah, win or lose, as long as he puts on good fights, it probably won't matter. But then he's got to fight everyone. He's got to take every big fight like Oscar did.
And
if he does that,
sorry, Gary, go.
No, go ahead.
And I'll just say, if what we think is going to happen to be true, where Jacobs wins against Derevchenko, if that happens, he's going to DAZN. Triple G, I think the consensus is that he probably goes to DAZN as well. Really, the only two top fighters in the middleweight division that aren't on DAZN, aren't under that umbrella, is Moreta and Charlo. Everyone else can work with the DAZN. And who was that?
Billy Joe Saunders.
Billy Joe Saunders, but he already was willing to work with DAZN. See, that's the thing. See, even though Billy Joe Saunders doesn't have a DAZN deal, he has no issue working with DAZN. He doesn't have a deal with ESPN Plus. Frank Warren has a deal with ESPN Plus. Billy Joe Saunders can go anywhere he wants. Same with Charlo. Charlo can technically go anywhere he wants.
That was the question I had. Does Charlo, because I mean, Charlo was supposed to be the mandatory for the winner of Triple G, Canelo. And then the WBC came out and said he has to be the loser in order to fight Canelo, which was kind of BS. But now Triple G says he's fighting Morita. So it's like, is Charlo just going to be frozen out because he doesn't work with his own? I mean, Charlo is basically been put in a position now that he has to sign with Eddie. I mean, am I wrong about that?
I don't know if he has to sign with Eddie. See, that's the thing. I think people often, I actually wanted to state this earlier in the show, people sort of conflate Eddie and DAZN as the same thing. They are quite different.
Sure.
You know, Eddie, from my understanding, is like an independent contractor within DAZN. Like, he's not an employee. You know, he has a deal with them. He has a contract deal with them. That's about it. So just like Canelo technically doesn't have a deal with Eddie, he has a deal with DAZN. I think Charlo could do that. You know, like and same with like the idea that like you can't be with Heyman and go to Eddie and DAZN. Yes, you can. Jacobs has. You still see PBC post Daniel Jacobs stuff all the time. They don't do that unless they get money from Daniel Jacobs' contract in his fights. If Heyman ain't collecting that check, PBC ain't promoting you. So they're obviously collecting a check from Jacobs' fights. So this narrative that you know, not necessarily you are saying, Gary, but I know others are saying that, you know, does he have to sign to Eddie? That's such a big deal. It really isn't a big deal. Go get a deal with DAZN. It doesn't have to be a deal with DAZN. You don't have to make a deal. Have a one-off fight. That's completely possible. I know DAZN won't like that, but you don't think DAZN would want to make Andrade versus Charlo on their platform? Or Jacobs versus Charlo? Of course they would.
Yeah.
So I think, now in terms of, to answer your question more directly, Gary, about them freezing him out, I don't know. I'll be honest, the WBC, just like every sanctioning body, does a lot of fuck shit. They just do. And especially now that the WBC have the, you know, reincarnation of Golden Boy and Canelo, they're going to make him so happy. They're going to appease every single thing he wants, especially when Canelo has shown that he has no issue telling the WBC, fuck off. So I'm not surprised that they made that move and put Charlo versus Triple G as the eliminator. We knew that was going to happen. And unfortunately, Charlo, it might just have to angle himself into that position. Because he is such a dangerous fight, guys like Canelo aren't going to push to fight Charlo. There's no reason to. He's going to make $30+ million guaranteed per fight, no matter what. It does not matter. So you're going to have to, you know, Demetrius Andrade, get to that mandatory position, you know, force the issue, and let's not act like Al Heyman doesn't have pull with the WBC. Let's not act like Al Heyman can't grease the wheels a little bit and get him that ranking and rating if he really wanted to. I think it's just all about timing, you know, business moves and when they happen, when they don't happen. I don't think Charlo's necessarily getting frozen out. Not yet. I'm not going to say that.
All right, then, because I actually thought that he could have took that situation where he had to fight Triple G and turn it, you know, and parlay it into an even bigger fight, right? Because Charlo, outside of hardcores, doesn't, even though we know how good he is, his name doesn't carry a ton of luster, right? Triple G's does. So if Charlo could beat Triple G, he would do so on a big stage, and he would beat him better than Canelo did, which would make the Canelo fight even bigger. Then you could put that next year in Houston on Cinco de Mayo weekend, which would be a massive fight. But now it looks like Charles not going to get the Triple G fight, and Triple G is going to go elsewhere, so I don't even know where that leaves Charlo at this point. I mean, I saw his name linked to that guy that Jacobs just beat, the Polish guy.
Yeah, I saw that. Silitsky.
That does nothing. But yeah, that does. I mean, he's a decent fighter, but that does absolutely nothing to raise Charlo's status.
If you're Charlo, you have a couple options, a couple routes you can take. You can either take the mandatory route, go to these guys as networks and hunt them down in a way, or you stay over there at Fox and Showtime and make yourself such a big figure over there, they have to come to you, or they have to co-network, co-promote, whatever they do. The second route is much harder and much more of a long-term strategy. and it's one that could work. Like, let's not forget that we've all been saying the Charlos could be a priority for PBC in terms of promotion and marketing. They absolutely can be. And now with all the Fox money and Showtime money, it's now the time in 2019 for Charlos to really make some noise as headliners on Fox. But again, that's a long-term strategy. Does beating the likes of William Monroe Jr. And God knows who else over there, well, that, even if it's on Fox, even if it's from this big audience, is that enough to sort of add enough negotiation leverage on your side? I don't know. Again, the short term would be you get that mandatory status, you go to their network, and you hunt them down.
I still think that if Charlo takes on any Jacobs, Triple G, Canelo, Charlo, I would favor him to win all those fights, or even Billy Joe, but he's still the B side, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in order for Charlo to really elevate himself, he needs to go fight one of those guys, whether it be Canelo, Triple G, or Jacobs, right? And I don't see any of those guys lining up to fight him. The only one that may have to fight him is Canelo if the WBC makes him.
And
do you think Jacobs or Billy Joe are going to be chomping at the bit, or Andrade is going to be chomping at the bit to fight Charlo if they don't have to?
Andrade could be different because, again, with them all in-house over there, potentially Jacobs, Andrade, Billy Joe Saunders, obviously working with DAZN in the past, willing to work with them in the future, that sort of conglomerate of middleweights could be worked out quite easily. It's in-house. And fighters are competitive. Like, let's not... It's one of those weird things because obviously fighters are business-minded at times, and obviously they have business-minded people around them. But these fighters are competitive. Like, these fighters do want to show that they're the best. Canelo wants to show he's the best. That's why he fought Triple G twice. Charlo wants to show he's the best. That's why he's calling out everyone. Jacobs has been calling out the winner of Triple G Canelo for 2 or 3 years. And so I don't see that these guys not wanting these fights. I see as business-minded people getting in the way. Networks getting in the way of it. So if Charlo's stance, if his sort of policy is not working with DAZN, then Andrade, Jacobs, and that sort of group, yeah, of course they have no inkling, they have no want to fight Charlo, in a sense, or at least their teams don't. There's no business around it. There's no economics around it in a way, and it's the way that the business people in the sport have been conditioned via the consumers, unfortunately, because we will eat this shit up. It doesn't, no matter what. Me and you, Gary, are going to watch the Charlo versus Centeno 2 fights on Fox. And we're going to shit on it the whole time, but still watch it. So there's no recourse for any of these actions.
The last thing I wanted to ask you, so you play Oscar and DAZN, right? So if you're Oscar De La Hoya or DAZN, after the Fielding fight, what would be the next 2 or 3 fights that you would make for Canelo?
Eddie brought up Daniel Jacobs. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I probably do that, to be quite honest. Especially if, let's say, he comes out here and it's a really competitive fight with Derevchenko. He didn't look great in, but he still won it. I kind of take that, to be quite honest. And Andrade, in all intents and purposes, it seems that they're going to try to push for a Billy Joe Saunders fight again, which they should. It legitimizes Demetrius Andrade's title reign if he beats Billy Joe Saunders, regardless if it's now after the fact of him getting a vacant belt. As long as he beats Billy Joe, I think we won't care about that anymore. We won't care about this Walter Kautondokwa, sort of side road for the WBO middleweight picture. So that's how I see it happening. If it's not that, obviously, David Lemieux. David Lemieux is still there. Just picked up a huge knockout against Gary Spike O'Sullivan. I'm assuming he's fighting sometime the next 6 months or so against another opponent. I could definitely see David Lemieux or Daniel Jacobs fight. Those two seem the most obvious.
And the David Lemieux fight does nothing for anybody. You know, I mean, do you think Lemieux would get out of the 4th round in that fight?
I can see out of the 4th, not out of the 6th. Not out of the 6th. Out of the 4th,
Okay.
yes.
And it's not competitive for 1 minute. That fight at no point is competitive.
No,
Right?
I think
Okay, so
Dave
6th round, then
Lemieux won't be able to find Canelo.
and I agree that fight probably at some point in the next year or two will get made. But, like, that's what I meant when – look, I don't think Canelo can just run through the middleweight division. I don't think that he can just – I mean, in theory, he could beat anyone in that division, but those guys could also beat him. So, eventually, his number will get pulled. And I think Andrade, stylistically, could be the one who beats him. Right? So, like, if you lose to Andrade and then you fight David Lemieux, where's the luster? Like, this is your $365 million guy who just, you know what I'm saying? It's just like De La Hoya didn't fight David Lemieux in the prime of his career. He just didn't do it, which is why he could demand the biggest payday.
Well,
right? I mean,
really?
He
never fought Dave Lemieux.
Not in the prime of his career. Not starting after he beat Whitaker. He took a couple of easy fights. Then he fought the Cortez and the Trinidad. Even the easier fights he took were big name guys like Mayorga. You would say, okay, Mayorga is not that good, but he's a name. It's a name that people like.
But Gary, he beat Pernell Whitaker within 24 fights. Canelo's at 40-something fights now. Like, it's different. It is different. Exactly. Like, let's not like Canelo's an old 29-year-old man. Like, I know we think Canelo is like still in his prime or something, but he's not. Canelo after those 10 fights is probably done. Like, he's done after these 10 fights, in my opinion. So I don't mind him, again, you mentioned Oscar De La Hoya. He fought guys like Oba Carr, Patrick Carpentier.
He was a good fighter.
David Lemieux is a good fighter. David Lemieux is a top fighter too. David Lemieux is a top 10 middleweight.
No, he's not a top 10 middleweight.
Then name the top 10. We can sit here and wait. We can sit here and wait. Name 10 middleweights better than David Lemieux.
Yeah, it's Canelo, Jacobs, Charlo, Billy Joe, Demetrius Andrade, Murata, Shevchenko, Triple G. That's just off the top of how many is that?
That's 8.
That's just off the top of my head.
That's 8.
I would have to say that's 8. So he's no better than 9. And if I went through the list, I could probably find 1 or 2 more middleweights better than David Lemieux. That's just 8 or 9 off the top of my head. It's better than.
Are you off your tits? Have you been smoking something?
Yo, Lemieux is top 10 at middleweight. Like, here's the thing. It may not be competitive, but it's still a good fighter. When you say Oba Carr and guys like Patrick Carpentier were good fighters, they were. But they're not great fighters. Just like David Lemieux. David Lemieux is a former champion. He is a good fighter. He is not great. And guess what? That happens.
He got knocked out by Marco Antonio Rubio. I mean, let's put him in perspective.
Yes. And he also beat Hassan Nadam, who beat Ryota Moreta. We can do boxing math here if you want. We can add 1 + 1 = 3 all night.
That's the one win that he has is Hassan, right? I mean, is there any? And you're gonna say Spike O'Sullivan too? I don't think Spike O'Sullivan's any good either. But I mean, does you have anything else on his resume besides Ndam?
What's Andrade have? What's Daniel Jacobs have? What's Moreta have? What's Derevchenko have? You put Derevchenko above Triple G. What's Derevchenko's best win?
Derevchenko's got better wins than Lemieux.
Really? Name them.
I would say so. Torreno Johnson is better than anything Lemieux's got.
You think Terrion Johnson's better than Hassan Nadam?
If they fought today,
we're talking about 2018 when David Lemieux fought Hassan Nadam in 2014. Why are we talking about fighters now? Are we going to talk about the context of when they fought him?
Who favored in that fight between Johnson and Demetrius Andrade. Wasn't Johnson the mandatory at one point, and then he couldn't take the fight for whatever reason? So Johnson was a highly regarded prospect at that point.
Carlos Ocampo was a mandatory for Earl Spence. Does that mean anything?
That's true.
Does that mean anything?
Not all mandatories are the same. I agree with that.
Just like all champions are the same. Just like Dave Lemieux, former champion. It's not the same as saying Triple G, former champion. It's obviously different. But Dave Lemieux is still a top 10 middleweight. To act like Dave Lemieux is this huge tune-up and such a disparagement of skill is just wrong. Rocky Fielding is that. If you're going to be really critical of a fight, the Rocky Fielding fight is that. He got knocked out by Callum Smith in 1 round. 1 round, and that's his only fight of note. Dave Lemieux has some wins. Let's not act like Dave Lemieux is some chump change. That's just not true.
Who would you pick, Willie Monroe or Lemieux? Probably pick Monroe, right?
Probably because of the style, yeah.
Okay, what about Louis Aries? I'm just trying to think of
No. Let's come on.
You would
come
think,
on.
Okay.
Come on.
You don't think Louis Aries is any good?
I think everyone. I think everyone is still thinks of Billy Joe Saunders looking up into the stands and thinking Dave Lemieux is utter trash. No, Billy Joe Saunders is just that good.
I never thought, because I remember you picked Lemieux to win that fight.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not trying to throw dirt in, but you picked Lemieux to beat Saunders. I'm like, you're out of your mind. It won't even be close. I've never thought Lemieux was a good fighter. At any point, I was surprised when he beat Dom.
But he is. He is a good fighter.
Would you pick him to beat?
He's not elite.
What's the Polish guy's name that Jacob fought?
Zalitsky?
What's his name? How do you say it?
Zalitsky.
Yeah, would you pick?
Yeah, I would pick him. I picked Dave Lemieux.
That's the level of fighter that Lemieux is at. It's a B minus type of guy.
Okay. He is still a top 10 middleweight.
Okay.
He's still a top 10 middleweight, though.
If you count Monroe, he's not a top 10 middleweight. You say Monroe is better than...
Okay, and using your list, Gary, Monroe's 9, David Lemieux's number 10.
Okay, so if he's in the top 10, he's number 10. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I can live with that. He's the 10th best middleweight in the world. That's not really who I want to see my $365 million man getting in the ring with. The 10th ranked middleweight in the world.
But Gary, you have a 10-fight contract. If one of them's a top 10 fighter, I'm not really complaining.
Yeah, but then he's got to beat everybody else. What I'm saying is he doesn't beat everybody else.
And he has a 10-fight contract. He again, Gary, and I know under your sort of theory is that Canelo loses to the Charlos, Andrade, Jacobs, and you're hypothetical. I understand. But everyone else he beats. Everyone else in that top 10. Like you would pick Moreta over Canelo?
No, obviously I'd pick Canelo.
Exactly. Like who would you really pick in that top 10 over Canelo? Like
the only guy I would definitely pick over him is Charlo. And I want to see how Jacobs looks. I mean, not Jacobs. I pick Canelo to beat Jacobs. I want to see how Andrade looks because I think he's going to be small for the size. But Charlo, I picked to beat him, and then maybe Andrade. That's it.
Okay. And guess what? If you're the biggest star of the sport in the North American market, and you lose to only 1 or 2 guys in that division, you can still be the biggest star in the North American market. That has no bearing on that.
You're right about that. That's true. I mean, De La Hoya did lose most of his big fights.
You can literally name every star minus Floyd Mayweather, and they have lost big fights. Muhammad Ali lost big fights and went on to become a mega transcendental superstar. Manny Pacquiao, Bernard Hopkins. Yeah. The list goes on and on and on of megas. Mike Tyson. You don't think Mike Tyson can come back and do a pay-per-view right now and outsell Terrence Crawford?
He could do 2 million pay-per-view buys, right? Of course he would. He could fight his grandmother, and he would do 1 million pay-per-view buys. That if Mike Tyson wanted to come back.
So I mean,
Mike Tyson said a couple years ago he could sell out Madison Square Garden masturbating. So it's like, yeah.
Stardom never dies. Stardom just never dies, unfortunately. A-Rod is still a star, and he's not playing baseball anymore. You know, like it.
All right, yeah.
Anything else, Gary?
That's all I got, Matt. Thanks for the time.
Great time, Gary. Always love a good debate. Going now to Coach Mitty in the UK. Mitty.
What's up, Matt?
How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I literally just joined in the conversation, like, well, not literally, but a good five minutes or so. And I can now guess what you're talking about, but that Gary guy is not serious, man. You know? What is he talking about? Like, Derevchenko is like
well, Gary,
one of the top middleweight. Like, he's got 12 fights, man. What is he talking about?
Gary was trying to make the argument that how can you afford the Canelo contract long-term, this long-term contract, when he starts losing big fights? That was the discussion he wanted to have.
They won't make him lose big fight straight away, right? So, and I mean, I think you were making a good point, right? Like, people just like hold different fighters to different standards, right? But if you want longevity in this game, and in the era that we're living now in terms of boxing, we're not fortunate enough to have witnessed the era where those people were fighting every week. I listened to like an interview on a UK podcast. I think it was Toe to Toe. They were talking about to Lomachenko, and they asked him, "Who's the greatest boxer for you?" Right? And he didn't even blink. He said like Sugar Ray Robinson. They asked him why. He said the guy fought every week. You know, he fought every week, and he fought anyone and every, that they could put in front of him. They all fight back to back top fights. But the reality of it, like, you can't really do that nowadays, and for different reasons, for sporting reasons and for business reasons as well. So if you want longevity, you have to have your tune up, then your big fights. That's the fact of it. And
very quickly, Mitty, let's not forget Canelo just went back-to-back wars with Triple G.
Exactly. So no one can say anything to Canelo. And guess what? Like, the guy will, maybe it's true. Maybe at some point, like, Canelo will slip up and he will lose. No problem. But I don't think he will lose in a way that will turn everyone off Canelo. Like, you made that point also. Like, the Mike Tyson's lost, and as soon as he lost, guess what happened? You say, hey, that's a slip up. We want to see the rematch, and they'll give him that rematch, or they'll build him up another 2 fights. Then you'll get the rematch, and then you'll still make money. Canelo is still like a good fighter, a great fighter, not a good fighter, a great fighter. But the reality is that he's not losing to all the people that people are talking about. Like, I heard like ridiculousness, like, oh, he's losing to Charlo. Fact. I don't know about that, man. I don't know if he's losing to Charlo as a fact. Like, when you talk about people, you can really ask questions of like Charlo's resume. We there questioning Canelo's resume, and we're behaving like Charlo is not fighting people like Centennial Jr. and people like that, right? So I don't know what people are talking about, really. I think Canelo has done it with good fighters. Yeah, it's true that he had like controversial wins against boxer movers, and you're gonna have people that will create trouble for him. But of late, you can't really question Canelo, and I mean, fair play to him. Like, we should not hate on the deal. That's a good deal for him. Congratulations. You deserve it. And that's it, man. Like, let's sit back, enjoy. Hopefully we get the Daniel Jacobs fight. Hopefully we get the Andrade fight. Hopefully we can get, I don't know, the Triple G fight if Triple G comes on the platform as well. The Lemieux fight. And who knows, Charlo. And, that's already like 4 or 5 fights that are interesting. Then just find another like 5 tune-ups, and yes, we'll pay for it and we'll watch. No problem.
Yeah, the funny part is that even when you're a superstar, your tune-ups are massive. Like Canelo's worst pay-per-view buy rates with Liam Smith, and that still is better than all of Triple G's own pay-per-views, better than Crawford by a large margin.
Yeah, and listen, like we also just like quick to criticize people and call them tune-ups, right? But like, you're probably gonna call me like biased because it's like the UK. But I'd like to say, I would like to think that I'll be the same with decent level of opposition. But the Smith fight was interesting. Like Smith just like didn't come and roll over. What was it, like 8 rounds, 9 rounds, like where he tried to have like a phone booth war with Canelo, and he came up short. He didn't have the power to trouble him, but at times he had the angles, and at times he had like the volume, but he just he couldn't trouble the guy, and he couldn't defend those body shots, and that's when you see the class of Canelo. Smith is not a bum. When he fought Munguia, you saw. Yeah, it's not the Munguia that just like took care of Saddam Ali in like 2-3 rounds where he was just like so one-sided. Like, so we have to give credit to those people that we like to call tune-up and bums, and so when we have like a decent fighters that goes rounds with them, that is trying to figure things out, they're not bums like we think they are. They are just like decent fighters, but that they will come up short because the guys that is in front of them are something special, or maybe have tools that they don't have. They have the power and they have the hand speed, and unfortunately, you'll just come up just short, but you give them a good fight. So I'm not worried. Like Canelo is in a weight division where, in between weight division where you can find like decent fights with people at 168, 160 catch weights, and he also has like decent opposition, at least 4 fighters, where that 11-10 fight deal could be interesting for us. So yeah, I think we should just be happy about that. So that's me, man.
I agree, Mitty. Anything else, or are you good?
I'm good. I just don't want just like to talk about things that you've probably gone over already. As I said, I just literally joined, and I was just thinking, what is that guy talking about? Just the one thing, like, you said it right. We can't play boxing math, right? 1 + 1 = 3. That makes me laugh, but that's the truth, man. Like, did he at one point he said like Derevchenko has like Toriano Johnson on his resume, and that makes it like a great resume? If you want to ridicule it this way, you can just say, man, didn't Johnson lose against Curtis Stevens or something like that? Like, so you can do that all day. I'm not saying that Curtis Stevens is not a good fighter, but that's just the argument that you can use to throw back at Gary and say you can't do that, man. And maybe Derevchenko is good, but yeah, we're gonna have to wait and wait and see. Let's see what he can do with Jacobs first. So
I agree.
Yeah. There you go.
Thank you, Mitty, for your call. And next time, definitely put in your headphones, because there was a little bit of feedback whenever we would try talking at the same time. But that's okay. That does happen occasionally. We're going to go to our last caller of the day or night, wherever you are. 567. You're going to have to, unfortunately, make it short and sweet. I'll give you about a minute because we are running up at the end of the show. 567. Who is this? Where are you calling from?
Oh, yeah. It's Angel from Detroit.
What up, Angel? How you doing?
I'm good, you, man.
I'm doing good, man.
I'm just seeing, like, in the chat, a lot of, like, fanboyism, like the DAZN fanboys versus PBC fanboys. I feel like PBC got some alright talent, but nobody fights each other. They got the welterweights, nobody fights each other. They got the featherweights, Santa Cruz, Gary Russell, nobody fights each other. But the 2 best fights of the year for me was Herb and Lara, and on ESPN, Oscar Valdez, Scott Quigg. But I think the DAZN got the talent to put up some of the best fights of the year next year, because they got the middleweights now, especially if Jacobs and Andrade both win like they should. But on what the guy said, the other guy that called, I understand what he's saying. Like, everybody would rather, come on now, in Texas, everybody would rather see a huge mega fight with Canelo and Charlo in Texas. Like, that would be huge. Canelo fought fucking James Kirkland in Texas, and it was huge. So you can only imagine Charlo.
Agreed. Anything else, Angel?
That's pretty much it. I mean, Charlo gonna have to come over to the zone now. At this point, if the zone got all of the middleweight belts, he's interim champ. You know,
90 seconds.
Big fights happen. So I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen to PBC because he one of their brightest stars, and he gonna have to, if he want any belt or any unification, he gonna have to fight on the zone. So it kind of, the zone making chess moves though. They're making chess moves definitely.
I agree, Angel. Thank you for the call. I do apologize for having to cut it short. As Blog Talk telling us we have to wrap it up. And just quickly, though, shout out to everyone listening. Shout out to everyone listening past, present, or future. Hit that like button, share the show, subscribe. Obviously, this is Mixed Combat Radio. Help support the show in any financial way at patreon.com/Mixed Combat Radio. What else? Hit the like button, share the show, subscribe. If you're listening on podcasts, drop that review. Be back tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow. Obviously, we have our Regis Prograis interview that will be rescheduled. Cannot wait for that. What else? Obviously, immediate reactions probably this weekend. I don't know about live fight chats. I doubt it. But immediate reactions, I'm probably going to do a show on Saturday night or something for all of these fights we have this weekend. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Jonathan, Mike, Ellie, Fat Apples, Cass,
10
Bayside, Wayne, Mikey, Louie, proud patron right there, Potential Lunatic, and everyone else listening, past, present, or future, like I've said. Shout out to Rob and others for tuning in and joining us on the call. Gary, Cameron for joining us rather quickly. I know he had an emergency. Hope everything is okay. But we'll be back tomorrow, like I said. I am Matt, the Hipster Hunter. Hipsters here. Haters beware. Be back tomorrow. Peace.